Privacy concerns of smart cities. Privacy categories. So there are 3 privacy categories. The first one is communication privacy, and that involves machine-to-machine communication and also communication between people, smart city devices, and systems. So the types of cyber attacks on communication privacy includes eavesdropping, which involves listening to private conversations or communications by listening to communication channels, and also man-in-the-middle attack, in which a threat agent intercepts communication channels. For business privacy, it deals with banking and e-commerce, and cyber attacks on business privacy include phishing, which involves impersonating a legitimate business or service to steal an employee's credentials to allow the threat agent to gain access, and spoofing, which also involves impersonating a legitimate business and service, but it results in tricking the employee into downloading malicious software, and also attacks to data integrity. And this involves obtaining data about customers and then feeding the false data into businesses' systems. And the third privacy category is individual privacy, and that involves personal data, financial data, and other data concerning the individual. And cyber attacks on individual privacy are very, very similar to cyber attacks on business privacy, except the target is on the individual instead of the business. Privacy challenges in data collection. So for data sensing, it's a type of data collection. It's a method that smart cities use to collect data, and it involves collecting data through cameras, sensors, or other devices in smart cities. The type of data that can be stolen or deduced by data sensing includes personally identifiable information, PII, medical records, and also like the daily routine of the individual. An example of privacy challenge involving data sensing is in intelligence surveillance. So it can accidentally reveal personal data of law-abiding citizens, even if its purpose is to monitor criminal behaviors and activity. And also the smart home. So cameras can reveal the layout of the home to intruders, even if its purpose is to detect and protect the home from intruders. Location data. So it is much easier, more common, and cheaper to track someone's location. Location data is easy to store, process, and interpret. Therefore, it would not be challenging for a hacker to deduce personal information. Location data can be obtained from a smart city via sensors in street surveillance cameras and GPS. And data that is provided to ISIG from near vehicles include location data. So that could that's an example of like a privacy challenge involving location data. Big data refers to the volume and variety of data. Privacy concerns include hackers being able to link and identify individuals with data, which is called identification, and big data being used differently than what it was initially collected for. Lack of public knowledge about how companies and organizations acquire results from the big data, and then more companies and organizations are not following the principle by the data protection law that promotes minimization of data collection. Privacy challenges in data storage and processing. For data storage, since it's more common now to store data on the cloud, so storing data as plain text in the cloud server could lead to privacy of individuals and their data being compromised. So the best way to fix this issue would be to just encrypt the data. And data processing. So the big part of, or a privacy challenge involved in data processing is with access control. So for example, data via crowdsourcing must be processed, but who would have access for processing it? That would be difficult to determine because essentially a lot of people contribute to the data, but you wouldn't want just anyone to have access to it. Privacy challenges in data sharing, data mining, and data mashup. So data sharing is when data can be distributed to different smart city entities, and the privacy challenge in that is that different privacy standards can lead to challenges in privacy protection. Data mining, data is interpreted and processed to be used, and they all have their vulnerabilities. Data sharing has vulnerabilities, data mining has vulnerabilities, and data mashup also has vulnerabilities. So that could lead to privacy challenges in those three stages of gathering data or sharing data. And finally, data mashup. So that's when connections are made between smart city technologies such as smartphones, IoT, and the privacy challenge in this is that it increases the opportunity for privacy leak because it increases the attack surface.
Another area of smart cities that is at a danger to a piece of smart city infrastructure that presents a privacy concern is the area of smart transportation. Now, what we mean by that are intelligent transportation systems that could be both public and private forms of mobility. So public forms of mobility could be trams and subways. Private forms of mobility are cars, automobiles, even scooters that are outfitted with the proper computational equipment. So transportation systems of all kinds have access to a lot of information, including GPS location, weather information, and traffic information. And with anything that has access to a large amount of information, there are some security concerns that come along with it. Additionally, almost all automobiles these days use computers to monitor their diagnostics. So information like how fast they're going and how many miles they have gone. Most automobiles now include built-in GPS satellite systems that can track different locations. Newer automobiles have more elaborate systems that allow communication and monitoring of car data from a mobile device. For example, you can use a phone to monitor a driving teenager with these systems, or even unlock and open your car from a distance using your cell phone, which obviously poses a security risk. Additionally, new technologies in cars allow cars to get through toll booths faster, which means that they're communicating with the traffic authority, which also opens up a doorway to potential risks. So going more in depth into some of those security concerns, some GPS systems store the points of origin and destination, and even others also include the route taken by the vehicle. Now, it's clear that anything storing your personal location information could present a serious threat to your own security, as location data poses a concern if compromised. For example, an individual's GPS information can tell someone where they work, what hours they work, where their children go to school, the doctors they go to and how frequently they go to them, and even their home address. The other concerns associated with smart transportation and automobiles and specifically are that the ability to connect Bluetooth devices and mobile devices to cars these days means that any security issues associated with that type of technology are now brought to be a security issue for the transportation vehicle. So, for example, insecure ports when connecting with a Bluetooth device now becomes a problem for cars as well in this modern age. Additionally, computational instruments that are built into the car and record diagnostics are rarely well secured and can be pretty easily compromised. Although the diagnostic information on a vehicle does not present as much of a concern as location data, for example, it is still a security concern worth noting.
All right, now we're going to talk about the current solutions to security and privacy concerns within smart cities. We will start with a discussion of solutions during each step of the sensing lifecycle. The first two steps attempt to protect the data as it is sensed and pre-processed. Unfortunately, the heterogeneous, complex, dense nature of smart city sensor systems complicates the protection of privacy and security during data collection. The sheer amount of data being collected in combination with the different nature of that data makes proper protection difficult. However, a 2013 paper compiles the concerns from this step into 5 main categories. The first category is identity data, which protects discerning characteristics of users. The solutions for protecting this type of data include real-time anonymization and pseudonymization. The second category is location, which is geolocation data of the user. This can be protected using trusted third-party systems to negotiate collaboration between users. The third category, query, relates to identity, as collecting this information could reveal private information about user habits. The fourth category is footprint data, or the data after it has been transmitted and transformed for long-term storage and use. Both of these categories also benefit from the use of trusted third-party systems. The fifth and final category is owner data, which refers to the database's ownership. This information should also be protected by anonymizing data and removing identifying details. Obfuscation of information can be accomplished by statistical disclosure control. Data mining can also be used to regulate privacy concerns. The next step of the sensing lifecycle that needs to be protected is data transmission. The key during this step is to prevent easy tampering and to obfuscate the data itself. This can be accomplished by putting authorization controls into place and by implementing network intrusion detection. The step after that, data storage, often has specific protocols to adhere to depending on the application the data is being stored for. However, data integrity can also be ensured by protocols such as data vitalization tags and encryption to inhibit tampering and to detect any intrusions. There are many services that the data can be used for, which makes protecting data during the last step particularly complicated. One general-purpose solution is to use negotiation technologies to delegate services between parties. Trusted third parties can also be utilized to implement third-party inspection and auditing. Lastly, protocols should be established to implement preventative measures.